Hello everyone, welcome to our channel. For today's video, we will going to discuss to you the chapter 1, the beginnings of civilization. Chapter outlines. Chapter outline number 1, achievements are made in the Old Stone Age. Chapter outline number 2, the New Stone Age brings change. Chapter outline number 3, civilization emerged in Asia and Africa, and we use a book as our reference entitled A History of the World by Marvin Perry. What kinds of evidence do archaeologists and anthropologists look for to find out how people lived before written records were kept, and what other types of scientists contributed to the study of prehistory? Where did farming and the domestication of animals begin? What factors allowed city dwellers to develop more specialized skills? Achievements are made in the Old Stone Age. The study of prehistory. Scientists study evidence of the human past. All of us, what we know about the prehistoric time came from unwritten evidence, like in tools, drawing, pottery, weapons, jewelry, and other objects that are made by the prehistoric people. Because many objects left from the earliest part of history are simple stone tools and weapons. So, scientists in several fields carry on research about the way Stone Age people lived and what they accomplished. And some of the evidence they find is in the form of artifacts and fossils. Here are the examples of artifacts. Artifacts is an object shaped by human beings. Next is fossils. Fossils is a human or animal bones and teeth and other traces left in rocks by plants and animals. These evidence are examined in different ways by the scientists such as the archaeologists, the geologists, chemists and physicists, botanists, and zoologists. The archaeologists study the origin, behavior of the human beings. They study the places where the prehistoric people lived, looking for the remains of humus, graves, and towns, or they study the prehistoric peoples and their cultures by analysis of their artifacts or remains materials. And related in the field of anthropology, the scientists study artifacts, bones, and other clues, and they are trying to determine what people looked like before, how long they lived, what they ate, and other information about the human past. The geologists analyze the fossils and the rocks in which they are found. Chemists and physicists use special methods to estimate the ages of artifacts and other remains from the past. The botanists and zoologists also contributed their specialized knowledge about the plants and animals. So with the help from all these different findings, the scientists developed theories about how human beings lived in the prehistoric times. Archaeologists find and study artifacts. For the archaeologists easily find the artifacts, they are choosing the site that they are going to dig based on the ground surface and stories that indicate people once occupied the site. But sometimes a dig is made where artifacts have been found accidentally. The archaeologists also make a map of the site before starting dig or excavate. The map is black or by numbered squares so that worker can identify exactly where an artifact was found. And if they already found the artifacts, they are using a small soft brush to remove the soil without damaging the object, and the loosened soil may be sifted through a fine screen so that even tiny objects are not lost. That's why they are carefully in removing the soil from the artifacts. And after that, the artifacts are photographed, labeled, cleaned, and then studied carefully. And scientific techniques are used to find the age of artifacts. A major discovery in scientific methods of dating was made in 1948 by an American chemist, Willard Levy. The method depends on the fact that all living organisms plant or animal contains a certain amount of radioactive carbon called carbon-14. Carbon-14 dating is a way of determining the age of a certain archaeological artifacts of a biological origin up to about 50,000 years old. Stone Age hunters and gatherers. Old Stone Age people hunt and gather food. Men and women of the Paleolithic Age were called nomads, where nomads is a people who have no permanent homes but wander from place to place. They do not have permanent home, but they travel together following herds of wild animals which they kill for meat. They also gather wild fruit such as nuts, seeds, honey, and etc. And they also caught fish in the streams and rivers. Paleolithic people did not build permanent dwellings or settle in villages. They made temporary homes in caves or in tents constructed of branches and animal skins. And one of the reasons why they choose to live in caves, it is for their protection from wild animals. So here are the examples of the temporary homes of Paleolithic people, the caves and tents. Stone Age people make impressive achievements. In modern terms, human progress in the Stone Age seems extremely slow, yet the achievements of the Paleolithic people were remarkable. Early in this period, human beings made a variety of tools that had specific uses. They learned to control and use fire, and they used spoken language. Archaeologists found out that most of the tools of the Paleolithic people are made of stone because it is more longer lasting than wood or bone. Paleolithic people had many different types of tools, such as dagger and spear points that they are using for hunting. Hand axes and choppers are used to cut up meat, and scrapers used in animal hides, and then last is needles and fish hooks. Neanderthal people developed their lips. One widespread group of Paleolithic hunting people was the Neanderthal. Scientists estimate that these people lived from 40,000 to 100,000 years age. Artifacts and living sites of Neanderthal people have been found in many other places in Europe, Asia, and North Africa. And some of them believe that if they do rituals, it would guarantee them success in hunting. In terms of burying their dead, they are carefully placing their tools, ornaments, foods, and bunches of wildflowers in the graves. Neanderthal people are also believing in life after death. Cro-Magnon people developed art. Some of the prehistoric art are inspired by the religious belief, and this was created by the people who named Cro-Magnon. Most of the Cro-Magnon art found so far has been in Europe and Asia. It includes beads, necklaces, and bracelets carved from ivory, pebbles painted with colorful designs, and small figurines cut from stone. They also made small ivory and bone sculptures depicting animals, birds, and fish. And then, in 1875, a Spanish nobleman, Don Marcelino de Saltula, discovered the Cro-Magnon first cave arts accidentally, because the daughter of Don Marcelino went to the cave with him, took her lantern, and then Maria started to explore a part of the cave, and then suddenly she found out that there's a painting of animals on ceiling. And she called her brother, and together they found out that in that painting, they found pictures of more than 25 animals. There were bison, deer, horses, and other animals. Some life-size or larger, painted in red, brown, yellow, and black. This cave named Altamira and soon became widely known. Altamira has been found in northern Spain and southwestern France. And the most famous painting in cave was found in 1940. This was the Lascaux Cave. It contains dozens of paintings of animals in an even wider range of colors than those of Altamira. Lascaux Cave discovered when 4 young boys in Lascaux, France, went looking for their lost dog, which had fallen down a hole. Scholars believe that the cave paintings were made between 12,000 and 30,000 years ago. It has been suggested that the Cro-Magnon cave artists drew these animals as a part of a ritual they hope would bring success in hunting. These are the sample picture of two caves. The first one is the Altamira cave and next is the Lascaux cave. The environment undergoes changes. Late in the Old Stone Age, the Earth's weather and climate changed and grew cooler. The scientists think that the variations in temperature have produced at least 4 long cold periods or ice ages. Over several million years, as the weather steadily cooled, the Arctic ice cap thickened and spread. A huge slow-moving rivers of ice that form in mountain ranges is called glacier, because so much of the Earth's water was frozen in the ice sheets. The water level in the oceans dropped by several hundred feet. Today, land that is far underwater was exposed. Sometimes it is forming a land bridges between the islands and continents. Even the land was not covered by ice, the weather tended to be cool and rainy. And at the end of the Old Stone Age, the weather grew warmer, so that the glaciers melted and climates in many places became hotter and drier. The New Stone Age brings change. Farming and herding began in the Near East. A change in the way people obtained their food was one important development that marked the Neolithic Age. This change most likely occurred first in the Near East, where wheat and barley. Barley looks like cereal that used for food and make beer and whiskey, grew as wild grasses, and wild sheep and goats roam. Some groups of people tamed or domesticated the animals and became herders. At the same time, other people in the Near East began to gather seeds from the wild grasses and to plant and cultivate grain crops. After 1,000 years, people in other parts of the world also began to raise crops from the wild lands and to domesticate the animals that live in their area. The cultivation of food-producing plants and the domestication of animals gave people more dependable sources of food, because people grew crops near their home instead of spending their time in searching for the grains, roots, and berries. In family societies, men continued to hunt animals for meat while women and children looked over for the crops. Herders still live a nomadic life, they moving to find a large area of land where they can feed their animals to grass. But instead of catching animals from a distance, they could kill their own animals like goats and sheep. Farmers settled in villages. Farming peoples began to build permanent settlements or villages for them to be near on their growing crops and store the extra food they grew. The development of farming greatly speeded up the shift to village living, because they spent part of all a year in areas where food was abundant, near at a river or lake well stocked with fish, or in a valley with much of wild barley or wheat. Barley and wheat are both important domesticated crops belonging to the grass family. Villages developed special skills. Village allowed people to learn new skills, because not everyone in the Neolithic farming villages had to work all day in the fields in order to raise enough food for the group. They could also devote part of their time to non-farming tasks. Villages become artisans, people with skills in specialized crafts. Villages become artisans because villagers make tools and weapons, and some make shelters or clothing from animal skin. Some learned to weave reeds into baskets, and some made pottery containers for cooking and for storing food and water. Ideas of trade and private property developed. The demand for the products of expert artisans such as toolmakers, potters, and weavers led to trade, wherein a toolmaker might trade with the farmer exchanging a stone hoe and axe for grain or sheep. A potter might trade clay pots for animal skin to make boots or clothing. This kind of exchanging for one good for another is what we call barter.
Increased trade and village living allowed people to acquire more possessions, because hunters and herders who moved from place to place accumulated few goods, but farmer and artisan who in permanent settlements were different. People began to concern to product on what they owned from the other villagers and other outsiders who might raid the village. Catalhuyuk provides information about Neolithic life. In recent years, archaeologists have unearthed several Neolithic settlements. One site is the ancient town of Catalhuyuk, which had been 3,000 and 6,000 inhabitants. The villagers built rectangular flat roof houses, which is made of oak and bricks of dried land. They made this to provide protection and make the construction easier. They built their walls in order to protect against each other. The entrance of any house was through the roof and down a ladder. The people of Catalhuyuk decorated their buildings. Benches or pillars were decorated with cattle horns. Walls were painted with colorful flowers, geometric design, playful leopards, dancers, and hunting scenes. By that, the archaeologists conclude that the art of Catalhuyuk had a religious significance, that the some buildings were probably shrines, decorated with plaster carvings and statues of clay, marble, and limestone. Catalhuyuk was a farming village whose people grew crops of wheat and barley and raised herds of sheep and cattle because they also hunted animals. Traders from other regions brought alabaster and marble to change or obsidian, where artisans used obsidian for making jewelry, mirrors, and knives. Artisans developed new skills. As Neolithic people specialized in certain crafts, they developed new technology. In that way, they learned to use new tools for their work. They learned to bake clay pottery in bricks to make them more long-lasting. To make the pottery and to shape it, they turn the clay on a flat disc or potter's wheel that can quickly and precisely shape a plates or a bowls. Another important advance was the plow. This invention enabled Neolithic farmers to bring more land under cultivation. This was pulled by oxen, and people also learned how to spin wool into thread and made looms for weaving thread into cloth. Other Neolithic inventions were the wheel and the sail, which both of these things improved transportation and encouraged trade. Artisans learned to work with metals. In late Neolithic time, artisans in the Near East learned to work with metal to make tools and weapons. The artisans independently learned the metal working, which knowledge that spread from the Near East. Copper was probably the first metal used, for it is easily worked and easy to extract from the rock where it is found. Because copper tools and weapons can be more sharpened easily than made of stone, and if it's broken, they can easily recast and reshape it. Soon, toolmakers discovered how to make bronze by combining copper with a small amount of tin, because bronze was harder and more durable than copper. The term Bronze Age is used to describe the period when bronze replaced copper and stone, because as the main materials used in tools and weapons, and the knowledge of bronze working was discovered first in southern Western Asia that about 5,000 years ago. Civilization emerged in Asia and Africa. The first civilization are in river valleys. The first civilization emerged in four great valleys in Asia and Africa. Those are Mesopotamian civilization, Egyptian civilization, civilization in India, and Chinese civilization. The first one is the Mesopotamian civilization in the region between Tigris and Euphrates River. Mesopotamian civilization is the earliest of all. It appeared about 5,000 years ago. Mesopotamia is located in the region now known as the Middle East, which includes parts of Southwest Asia and lands around the Eastern Mediterranean Sea. It is a part of the Fertile Crescent. Second is the Egyptian civilization that developed on the banks of the Nile River in northern Africa. Just as life arose from the waters, the seeds of civilization were first grown along the banks of the Nile. This mighty river, which flows north from the heart of Africa to the Mediterranean Sea, nourished the growth of the Pharmic kingdom. Third is the civilization in India that emerged in the valley of the Indus River. India is often called the Harappa civilization because of one of the ancient cities that was called Harappa. Harappa was just one of 1,500 cities in the Indus River Valley. Lastly is the Chinese civilization, took shape along the Yellow River. The civilization of ancient China first developed in the Yellow River region of northern China in the 3rd and 2nd millennia before Common Era. These four ancient civilizations provided the basis of continuous cultural developments in the same location.
Ancient people mostly settled near in the river. People settled along rivers because river is their source of foods and fresh water for both human beings and a variety of wild animals. As the agriculture developed, rivers had a huge help to ancient people because it supplied water for growing their crops, and the fertile soil that the river has been deposited when the rivers are flooded can help to produce many plants or crops and make it grow healthier. Rivers are also encouraged trade because travel by water was easier than travel on foot. People export their products, or sometimes they do exchanging one thing for another thing, or also called the barter. That's the reason why river valleys is an attractive places to live, wherein the people settled along rivers, because it can help them to make their daily lives easy, and this is where they can sustain their necessities.
Governments are organized. The rivers also presented a challenge to all Neolithic settlers and farmers. That's why people had to learn how to control the floodwaters so they could farm the land. They needed ways to store water for the dry season. By that, many historians have concluded that the need to plan indirect irrigation and flood control was one of the reasons why governments were organized. And in Neolithic farming villages, there were leaders and families who had more power and prestige than others. And in the first cities, they organized armies for defense and brought together large number of people to work on projects like to control the flood and the wall of buildings, palaces, and temples. As necessary, the larger population in cities was also made organized by the government. Laws were issued to keep order among the people, wherein the government officials were chosen to manage the large projects, to collect taxes to pay for the protection and upkeep of the city. The rules there were to justify and to support the power of the political leaders at many different places.
Government and religion are closely connected. Archaeologists found that evidence indicates that even in Paleolithic times, people had beliefs in animism, which is giving spirits to natural and inanimate objects, and also animalism. They also believed in life after death. Similarly, in Neolithic times, peoples believed that there were gods who controlled the sun, the rain, the winds, and other natural forces. That's why people seek or find a way to win the gods' help and approval so that they would be successful in everything they do. And religious rituals and the priests who performed them held an important place in their daily life. Beliefs and rituals help shape the governments that develop in the River Valley civilizations. Beliefs and rituals help shape the government because the rulers or the head of the government were seen as the gods or as the chosen representatives. So, as the chosen representatives, if gods, they were served as a chief priests and lead religious practices. If in Christianity, we base the command of our God in Bible, or we base the command of our God in the Bible. So, in the rulers, they sing the laws as the carrying out of commands from the gods. So, they are basing the commands of their gods based on their laws. Priests held great power in the government. He lived, studied, and taught younger priests. Because people labored and paid taxes for the building of huge temple. From the offerings of the people who wanted the gods' help, the temples became wealthy as well as powerful. That's why the priests are just only lived, studied, and taught younger priests in special areas of temple.
People in cities follow a specialized occupation. In early cities, the members of the priesthood were not the only special class of people living. Cities could develop only when farmers grew enough food for both themselves and the city dwellers. This allows city dwellers to follow many specialized occupations. And the population of an ancient city included government officials. In addition to these leaders, there were also artisans who provided goods and services, and merchants who engaged in the trade of these goods, as well as a large number of ordinary laborers, farmers, and fishermen. All of these classes added to the complexity and economic production of a city. Working full-time at the specialized jobs encouraged the growth of new skills and new knowledge. They could try new methods that further improve their skills in products. Like people who spent all of their time in reading code became more skillful by that they can share their ideas with other readers. And traders from other cities and towns brought new ideas, materials, crafts, and methods.
Systems of writing and record keeping developed. As systems of government, religion, and trade became more complex and organized, some kind of record keeping was necessary. Keeping record is necessary because every important details need to be kept or have a record so that important matters cannot be forgotten, like the businessman that needs to take note all of their profit and income so that they will know if their business are growing or not. The priest needs to keep track the passage of time or the positions of the sun or the moon, which is important in religious rituals. Almost every ancient civilization invent some form of writings, and this is why the beginning of civilization also marked the beginning of written history.
Check-up questions. For outline number 1, chimney made in the Old Stone Age. What kinds of evidence do archaeologists and anthropologists look for to find out how people lived before written records were kept? Archaeologists often study places where prehistoric people lived, looking for the remains of homes, graves, and towns, and examining the artifacts found there. In the related field of anthropology, scientists study artifacts, bones, and other clues, and try to determine what people look like, what they ate, how long they lived, and other characteristics. What other type of scientists contribute to the study of prehistory? The other types of scientists contribute to the study of prehistory were archaeologists, anthropology, geologists, chemists, and physicists, botanists, and zoologists. Who were the first prehistoric artists? The first prehistoric artists are the Cro-Magnon. Where did they live? They live in the cave. Give some examples of art they created. Some of the examples of the art that they created are beads, necklaces, and bracelets that curved from ivory, pebbles painted with colorful designs, and small female figurine cut from stone. For outline number 2, the New Stone Age brings change. Where did farming and domestication of animals begin? Farming and the domestication of animals begin at the Near East. To what does the term Bronze Age refer? The term Bronze Age refer to describe the period when bronze replaced and stone as the main material used in tools and weapons. Where and when was this metal first used? This metal used in many different parts in Asia and Europe at widely separated times and lasted for thousands of years in some regions at about 3,300 before Christ. For outline number 3, civilization emerged in Asia and Africa. What factors allowed city dwellers to develop more specialized skills? This allowed city dwellers to follow many specialized occupations, where citizens could develop only when farmers grew enough food for both themselves and the city dwellers. In what ways were writing systems useful and necessary to government officials? The government officials needed to write down what taxes were owed or how much grain was stored in a warehouse. To priests needed to keep track of the passage of time or the position of the sun or moon, which were important in religious rituals. To merchants wanted to identify their goods and to keep records of what they bought and sold.
This is your presenter, Georgie Arsaga, Jerilyn Canales from BSED second year students. We can do this para sa bayan at sa kinabukasan. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and click the notification bell for more updates and videos. Thank you for watching!